Yes. No, wait. No, you're Manteno. You're not, you're just one. I'm sorry. I have just so many of them my friend knows about. Manteno is one who was every capture zone for Manteno. And my friend just ripped off the last time. And then two other guys.
Oh yeah, we got that. Thank you.
Well, it's not that they're not, but in order to get on the ballot, you have to get petitions. So, like it was going to be
Thanks for having me. Yeah. Hey, I'm also, if people are interested in maybe
Okay, and then what am I supposed to do with something when I go over there?
Just leave them here, Julie, and I'll get them when it's over. It's bullying. It's bullying. Huh? Somebody will help you. They help you bring them in. It's all in car. What car? You don't have a car? Thank you. I have a car. Yeah, I'm only today. I'm taking these with me.
All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started here in about 1 minute. Phil Nagel's going to speak here first. And then we got Mark speaking, and then Jeannie, and then myself. I'm sure we're going to say incredible things, so feel free to hold the applause until the end. And if there are any members of the press, I will be opening and taking questions at the end if you have any questions about the legal aspect of it. If you have any questions for the other speakers, of course, you're more than welcome to come and talk to them as well. So let's give a round of applause for everyone's going to speak now.
Thank you.
And we'll make our voices heard in there next, okay?
Yes. I'm not in the way of any camera, am I? Yes, I am.
There we go. All right, everyone. Phil Nagel here. I'm running for Illinois State Senate. Thank you all for showing up on this cold and wet night. But you know what? When freedom calls, we come knocking, right? There ain't no keeping us down, right? Any veterans in the audience tonight? Anyone? Oh, we got a couple of them. Hands out. Thank you for your service. I am also a veteran. My son just commissioned 2 months ago into the United States Army, and you know what? We have to fight back. So I have a quick question for y'all. This isn't the first Goshen plant, right, that's set up in this country? There's a handful of them, right? What's the one common thread between all these Goshen plants? Anybody?
Military bases.
Absolutely, military bases. They are within an arm's length of every Goshen plant that gets set up in this country. Is that concerning? Yes or no? Absolutely, it's concerning. We need. So, what can we do to stop that? Right? What happened? What just happened in Michigan? Anybody? Absolutely. We called their entire city council. Right? We can't. Maybe we can't do that this election cycle. But there are good people running out there for office. That, you know what? They have values just like you, and they stand against selling our country to the CCP, right? Wait, so here's another element to this, right? There's a lot to unpack in this entire thing, and I'm going to try to keep it short. If I start rambling on a little bit, let me know. But the CCP, right? They're our number one geopolitical adversary in this country, right? Yes. Governor Pritzker is giving them, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to touch on this, almost $600 million to come to Manteno. How concerning is that? Another $7.5 billion from the federal government, right? The Democrat Party has made this environment in Illinois so unfriendly to businesses that the only folks that we can attract are our adversaries. Is that concerning to any of you guys out there? Yes. It's very concerning to me. My son just joined the Army, and guess what? We're funding our adversary. We're funding the person that one day the President of the United States may call up to defend this country against our adversaries. That is concerning to me, folks. I grew up in Manteno, just like many of you guys here. I still call Manteno home, and you know what? I'm willing to fight for it just like you guys. I will end it with this. This has been one of the most inspiring groups and movements that I've seen in my lifetime. You guys are all out here weathering the cold. You're all out here standing for what you believe in. And you know what? The only job of any representative in this state or in this country is to be the conduit of information between that institution, that government, and the people. Have any of you guys in this audience right here, have any of you guys, did you guys know about Goshen before?
No.
No? No one? None of you guys heard? So you're trying to tell me right now that maybe Senator Joyce, Governor Pritzker, Representative Jackie Haas, any of you guys, did any of them come to you guys and tell you guys, hey, we want to bring Goshen into this town? No, because they don't care. The only way they're going to care is if you guys put them on the edge and push back. And you push back by getting to the ballots, getting to the ballot box, and voting in the next election. Elections have consequences. Democrats are very good at telling us that every election cycle. Let's make them pay. Turn out in this next election cycle. Thank you.
Thanks, Robbie. I guess this weather means I should dispense with my hour-and-a-half speech. Is that right? You know, I first got interested in this because I was following the tax credits in that so-called Inflation Reduction Act. And when Governor Pritzker made his announcement, I thought to myself, hey, it looks like these federal tax credits are going to be available here. So we did the calculation and came up with that $7.5 billion number. We literally couldn't believe it at first. We're going to give $7.5 billion for a plant that only cost $2 billion to build. But we checked with a couple other groups. Sure enough, they came up with the exact same number as us. And that's plus $536 million from Illinois state taxpayers. Now, I happen to be on the side who thinks that we ought to continue economic relationships with China where it's in our interest. But, you know, I come from the financial world. My previous career was as an investor. And I kind of look at things through that prism. And I say, this is a stupid deal. It is not in our interest. That's what struck me. It is a stupid deal. And of course, all the technology and know-how that's developed at this plant is going to accrue to the Chinese and not to us. I think, you know, there's a Chinese word that I would like you to know about. The word is Baizhua. Baizhua. Have you ever heard of it? It's a very popular slang word in China now. It means an American who is very naive about getting suckered. A naive American. Well, we are not Baizhuas. Goshen, I'm sure, has had a good laugh at how many Baizhuas they've found in our government that have given them 4 times what it cost them to build this plant. But you can stand up against them. You are standing up against them. We are not Baizhuas. I'm really honored to be here with you. Keep fighting, keep fighting. We're going to win this. I'm confident we will. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for having me here tonight to talk to you. I'll tell you what, freedom begins with you, and you are proving that true right now by standing here and standing up against a multinational company and somebody as big as Governor Pritzker. So I applaud you for standing up for freedom, because that's what you're about. Okay, you can laugh at that, it's true. He's a big guy, right? And he's got big plans and big deals that he likes to cut, because he's a deal maker. And what he's done is he's made a deal for himself and his green energy fantasies and against you. Like, let's be clear here. I personally think it's wrong to give any private company $500 million. Yes. Anyone. Yes. But I'll tell you what, it's traitorous to give $500 million to a Chinese communist-controlled company. That is traitorous. I mean, as Phil mentioned, there's a lot of us who have military connections. We've served in the military. Our kids are serving in the military. And I'll tell you what, when our sons are training on the range or training in their F-18, we don't expect that our government is actually, arming our adversary with additional dollars, which is exactly what's going on here. Like, he didn't have to do this deal with China. He didn't have to. He lost out on 18 other EV battery deals prior to this, and he wanted one so bad that he gave away the biggest economic deal since the Soldier Field reconstruction in the history of the state of Illinois. That's what he did. I mean, it's unbelievable, right? $160 million to the illegal immigrant crisis. That's just the start of it. It's really, $800 million. And then now you're going to give this away to the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, that is exactly what he's doing with your money. Meanwhile, you walk into the grocery store, you're trying to provide for Thanksgiving dinner, and you walk out $200 later and you don't have half a cart left. He doesn't care about us. He cares about his big ideas. And that's just shameful. Let me tell you another thing that's wrong with this deal. It was all done behind closed doors. So he could not get in a battery plant to come to Illinois at all, and so he asked for a deal closing fund of $400 million. They passed that legislation at the end, January 9th or so, and it actually had an effective date for parts of it on February 3rd. Well, what's important about February 3rd? It's also the same day that DCEO staffers sent notes to Don Harmon and Speaker Welch's office staffers and said, hey, are you okay if we give the Communist Chinese Party Goshen, company Goshen, are you okay if we give them $125 million? And that's the extent of the conversation. Literally an email, a conversation, and boom, $125 million is sent to the Chinese. All behind closed doors. Nobody knew about it. Whoever was down here in Manteno making a deal for a 30-year property freeze behind your back, never told anybody about that either. I mean, it is insanity to allow them to get away with it. And guess what? We're not going to let them. No. So, again, I appreciate your fight that you have going on here. There's a lot of other things that can be done. I know that you've got a great lawyer and a good team behind you to start going after them. We think this is a national security problem. We think that there's all sorts of other concerns. But the biggest concern is that J.B. Pritzker and his Democrat colleagues did all of this behind our back. All of it. And they just feel so good about handing out your money. Your money. You work hard for your money, you send it to Springfield, and they give it to the Chinese Communist Party. It's insanity. It's insanity. With that, I'm going to turn it over to somebody who's probably a little more level-headed, your lawyer.
Well, thank you, Jeannie. Thank you for everyone else. My name is Robbie Juby. I'm an attorney who's here on behalf of the concerned citizens of Manteno. I'm here for you. I'm here for the citizens here who, even though you don't know it, you are part of a nationwide movement of citizens who has stood up and said, no. No, you will not threaten our national security. No, you will not destroy our environment. No, you will not rip our communities apart. No, you will not bring Goshen here. No Goshen. That is what we are here for. And why? Why are we so opposed to Goshen? Is it because, as the wonderful people in your town leadership, village leadership has said, it's because you're all racist? Is it because you're all ignorant? They come there, they attack your faith, they attack your appearance, they attack how you look. You know what they can't attack? What we're saying. They can't attack the actual facts here on the ground. And let me tell you something. I've been around this country fighting for citizens fighting these plants. It's happening everywhere. It's happening in North Dakota, where we stopped them. It's happening in Michigan, where we're fighting them tooth and nail every centimeter of ground they want to take. It's happening here. It's happening in Alabama. It's happening in Missouri. It's happening in California. You're not alone. You are part of a large movement. And why are people so upset? Well, let's talk about the national security first. Your mayor has said Goshen is no threat. Goshen belongs in your community because the federal government said Goshen isn't a national security threat. But what does that actually mean? What actually happened here? There is a process in America called CFIUS, C-F-I-U-S, where the federal government can determine whether a foreign company is going to be a threat to national security. There are two ways you can do that. One is through a short form CFIUS application where you give virtually no information to the federal government. It's a very simple form. You send it off. Or there's a long form where you have to answer in excruciating detail every aspect of your company, who controls you, what your motives are, what your goals are, how you're going to accomplish them. Which one do you think Goshen put through? The short one. And they did that years ago, back when their company was majority owned by Volkswagen. Since then, their company is majority owned by members of the Chinese Politburo, literal members of the Chinese Communist Party government and party itself. And you can read their articles. Read the articles of the Goshen Company. What does it say? It says it is an organ of the Chinese Communist Party. We know this. And not only do we know this, your mayor knew it. And your mayor didn't tell anyone. Instead, he signed a non-disclosure agreement to hide the facts from the people who elected him to represent you. And then he went... I'm not going to take that as an omen. And then he went to the rest of the officials of your city and got them to give massive tax credits to this company and never once told them who they were. Never once told them what their ownership was. Never once told them that this was a company controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. Do you think they would have voted for it if they knew? I hope not. And I think, and we've sent a letter to the mayor saying this, that because he has a fiduciary duty to you, the people, keeping facts from you, like through an NDA, may be illegal. And we're prepared to take action for that if we need to. So what can we do? Well, I said this yesterday. Ask Goshen to do a long-form review. Your village has the right to do that. And if Goshen really is a friend of the people, if it really belongs in your community, if it really isn't a threat, they should have no problem filling that out, right? There should be no issue filling out the long-form review. Except we know they won't. And how do we know that? Because the clients I represented in Michigan asked them to do that. Big Rapids Township. They were sold the same package as what you've been sold here of this is a great company, it's going to bring jobs, it's no national security threat. Except there, the township there said, well, we're actually a little concerned. Can you prove that you're not a threat? Goshen ran out of that town as fast as they could. And they moved to a different town in Michigan where, by the way, they just voted out their entire board and have said no to Goshen. So if you're looking for something concrete that can be done right now, ask your trustees, ask your mayor to just once listen to you and ask for a long-form review. Manteno has nothing to lose if it does. But it's not just the national security concerns, which are valid. It's also the environmental concerns. And this is what I love about this movement, is that so many of you would go inside that ballot box and pull levers for different candidates. You might be on the left, you might be on the right, but all of you recognize that this is a threat to your community. The environmental threat alone from these chemicals, from what our research has determined, they are going to be using lithium carbonate, synthetic graphite, hydrofluoric acid, and other chemicals. These chemicals cause birth defects, they cause cancer, they cause liver disease, they cause asthma. And I asked yesterday and I asked today, how many children will have to be born with birth defects? How many children will have to have cancer? How many of our parents and grandparents and children and grandchildren will have to have horrific diseases before we step back and say, we should not have done this? The answer is zero. Not one. Not one child, not one person should suffer from these chemicals. But we can't even be promised that they're going to be safe. Because we don't even have an environmental review. We don't have a single environmental, not only here, but in Michigan. They haven't even gotten around to doing the environmental reviews yet. So today, the Planning Commission is going to vote, or at least going to hear comments about why they should rezone to I-2. Should they rezone to allow this plant to come through? And they're going to do that without even knowing how we're going to protect from these chemicals. They're going to do that without even having the equipment to put out a lithium fire if it happens here. That lithium is so dangerous, you can't even bring it on a plane. You can't bring a battery the size of my thumb onto a plane, but you can build a a plant less than a mile from homes, from apartments. Quarter mile. It's insane. It's insane. If nothing else, we can wait. We can wait to hear what the environmental impact is actually going to be. The final thing here, and this is something I brought up yesterday, I'm going to march in there and I'm going to tell them today. Your village code doesn't even allow this plant to be here. Your village code is clear. You cannot have highly toxic chemicals in your community. Someone was smart back then, right? Somebody thought, hey, maybe we shouldn't have carcinogens in our community. Well, whoever that genius was who wrote it in the village charter back then, their words are protecting you now. If that planning commission ignores their own charter, the constitution of this village, and it puts forward a use that it, by law, cannot make, we'll sue them. We'll sue them on behalf of them. And I'll tell you what, with all the environmental concerns here too, we'll sue them under environmental laws as well. Across the country, companies like Goshen come into your communities and they get everyone to sign NDAs and they make you feel like it's a done deal, and they come and they say there's nothing you can do. You need to sit down, you need to shut up, and you need to say, please sir, thank you, may I have some more? But we'll tell you what, we're not going to sit down, we're not going to shut up, and they have not heard the last of anyone here or anyone gathered. I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank everyone for giving me the opportunity to be here. And I know that this is a press conference, so if there is any members of the press who would like to ask about the legal strategy or would like to ask questions of any of their speakers, I invite them to do so. If there's any members of the community who would like to ask me questions, I'm happy to come talk to any of you individually. And again, I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be in this incredible community and to fight for you. It truly is an honor for me, and I know for everyone else speaking, it's an honor to just be around and see the energy here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone members of the press who did have questions? If not, I'm going to go ahead and
I want to hear what GDI's with the real story.
Okay.
Is it true that recently in Michigan they just laid off 180 people at that EV, and this is a common practice with these type of businesses or Chinese companies?
So I'm not familiar if they've laid off people, but I can tell you two things that have happened. Ford just today announced that they're going to cut the jobs that were promised in their EV plant in Marshall, where we're fighting them too because they're partnered with Cattle, a Chinese Communist Party company. They're going to cut those jobs in half, the projected jobs. And let me tell you, there's no way the jobs that they're predicting are going to come in. That's a lie, I think. But what Goshen, specifically Goshen has done in Michigan is they promised at the beginning of this whole process that there was going to be a large number of permanent jobs. And every milestone that they're supposed to hit with the development committee there, they've reduced those job estimates every single time. Every single time they have said there's going to be less and less jobs. And let's think about this. Millions of your taxpayer dollars are going to create how many jobs permanently? 50? 100? Somebody said 10? We don't even know. This is a big reason why there are supposed to be very tight restrictions on the kind of money that can be done in any sort of grant. And Jeannie, I spoke about this earlier, and if she has more to add, I'd absolutely encourage her to do so.
And hopefully you can look into this. Again, Jeannie Ives, thank you. I have a radio show, Real Story, on AM 560, Sunday, 7 to 9 p.m., and we've covered this a lot. But one thing that the Edgar County Watchdogs have done, and they're back there, John Kraft is here, live streaming it, and they actually forwarded the information, and I think that you guys should know what's in that information. One, they basically certified that they were a company that was capable of actually authorized to do business in the state of Illinois, and they certified that back in February 3rd when they got authorization for this deal closing fund when it was all done. And yet they weren't authorized to do business in the state of Illinois, and nothing was announced until August. So already we think that the certification is in question as well. And when you look at this certification, they list where their jobs are.
And they list that they have almost 2,600 jobs in China. They have 50 jobs or so in California and another 40 or 60 jobs in Ohio. They are a Chinese company. Don't kid yourself.
Any other questions? Any questions about the legal strategies or any of what's going to happen today?
Yeah, if the planning commission goes ahead, they probably got the mind made up already that they're going to approve the rezoning. And if that goes ahead, what will be appealing, but is there some kind of a court injunction that can come in and say, stop all progress until the appeals process goes?
So I'll take that in two parts. One, the Village of Manteno, under your code, if there's any rezoning that's approved, there's an appeal process where you go to the Planning Commission, who I'm certain will overturn their decision. And then when that inevitably doesn't happen, it goes to the City Council, who, again, I have no faith would overturn the Planning Commission. And then you can bring a rezoning challenge to court, specifically. So that's that legal route there. As far as a preliminary injunction, that is a tool that can be brought with most legal actions. And that's where you go to the court and you say, we want you to immediately pause whatever the action is until the end of the litigation. You can get that with most actions. Typically, the rezoning itself doesn't entail building, so an injunction on the rezoning is not as common, but it is certainly available as a legal tool. But it'd be more once someone is attempting to break ground or bring shovels out, that's when an injunction is much more common, and we've seen that around the country as well. Sorry, 1, 2, 3. Go ahead.
Okay. Are they zoning the actual property for the property owner, or are they rezoning it for Goshen specifically? Because can the owner actually bring in another company later if he wants to, if they go through with the zoning and Goshen ends up backing out?
Yeah, so my understanding of the zoning application that's been put through, the applicant itself is the property owner, but the zoning is always for the property, right? And so whoever comes in afterwards, that will still be I-2 afterwards, right? So if Goshen ups and leaves shop after 5 years,
Well, this could be a front, really, for something else, right?
I mean, as long as it's I-2, any I-2 use afterwards is allowed to come in. And typically with any zoning code, if you have I-2, you can do I-1 as well. So this is going to expand what can come in. Zoning isn't typically done for a specific project, but it can be requested for a specific project. My understanding is that is what's happened here. So it is in light of the plant they're wanting to bring in, but it will be I-2 going forward unless and until it's rezoned.
Environmental studies you mentioned earlier. When are they required? And are they required? And who pays for them?
So environmental studies are required under the Illinois Environmental Protection Act. That is supposed to be before, at a minimum, the operation of the plant. Typically it is before even you begin building the plant, you have to go through your entire permitting process. Frequently you can lay foundation or you can tear down buildings that exist or you can cut trees. But to actually begin building the plant itself, you would have to go through the entire permitting process, which is not just the Illinois permitting process, but frequently the Army Corps of Engineers and sometimes other federal agencies. It remains to be seen whether the federal government is going to get involved here. They have been reluctant to do so in Michigan so far, and I'm not holding out a lot of hope that they're going to get involved here in Illinois either. Go ahead. The question is who from Goshen is going to be representing Goshen today. I believe Chuck Thelen, the vice president, is going to be there, but I do not know.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and Goshen Inc. is an American subsidiary, right? And so it is an American company. How this typically operates is these companies will set up American subsidiaries and then run everything through the American subsidiary, but who's really calling the shots, right? Yes, go ahead.
Are you able to address the zoning issues tonight like you did last night at the board meeting?
So the question is, will I be able to speak to the zoning committee? My understanding is I will get 3 minutes and no one else will be able to yield time to me this time like they did with the village council. I plan to specifically raise the fact that it would be illegal under their code to even do this rezoning. But I know we have a very large number of citizens who have been collecting a tremendous treasure trove of facts as to why the rezoning would be improper, and they're all ready and eager to speak, and I look forward to hearing what they have to say. Yes, go ahead.
The vote is scheduled for December 4th.
I'm so sorry, say that again?
The vote is scheduled for December 4th. Is that a public or
The question was, based on what's been published for notice, the vote itself will be on December 4th. Will you know who it is? I do not have the answer for you at this point in time. I will say, in my experience across other jurisdictions in the country, those votes do have to be publicly voted on, so you'll know which members voted for what. But I can't say sitting here today that that is the case for Manteno, so I don't want to mislead you if I'm wrong. Okay, someone says it is, so yes, go ahead. So the question is, has the property been purchased yet, and do we know who the owner is? My understanding is that the property has been purchased. We do not know for sure if it is Goshen itself that's purchased it, or if it's one of the economic development alliances or some other entity. I would say in Michigan, most of the property was purchased, for Marshall specifically, was purchased by the Economic Development Alliance there to hold for Ford until basically it was ready, quote, ready for Ford to step in and take it. So does Goshen specifically own that property right now? I don't know standing here today, but my understanding is that it has been purchased. Yes, go ahead. So the question is, if this is a national security threat, could the military get involved? The process our federal government has set up is the CFIUS process, C-F-I-U-S. So that's run by the Department of Commerce in conjunction with the Department of Treasury. It was set up by the Senate, House and Senate back in 2018 and has been kind of marching ever since. So the CFIUS committee is the one that reviews basically applications to investigate the national security threats. There is also the House Select Committee. I believe in the Chinese Communist Party. It might be on just China. And I believe Molinar, Chairman Molinar is leading that. And they are also investigating cattle in Goshen as well.
The seed plant they had in North Dakota, that was canceled because the Commandant of the Air Force wrote a letter to the Secretary stating that we have top secret drones here. Is that true?
So the question was, the plant in North Dakota, he's referring to the Fufeng corn wet milling plant in Grand Forks that I was representing the citizens fighting there. Was it canceled because the Commandant of the Air Force wrote saying there was top secret drones there? Officially, the Air Force did not take a position on whether there was a threat from the Fufeng corn wet milling plant. The citizens there raised repeatedly that there was a national security threat, and the City Council of Grand Forks ultimately rescinded the development agreement, canceled the entire project because of national security concerns. As far as what back-channel communications there were, I'm not privy to that, but I think for a City Council that was entirely supportive of this to suddenly flip because of national security concerns, and citizens have been saying that for months, somebody more than citizens said there was a national security threat, would be my suspicion, but again, I don't know for sure.
Wasn't that true here? We got 2 military bases within 45 miles and 30 miles a nuclear plant, power plant.
Yeah, so this is something that Phil Nagel, or I don't see him, he may have stepped out. This is something that he raised as well. These plants just so conveniently happen to find communities next to our critical military infrastructure. Now granted, we have a lot of military bases in America, but that's the burden of being a world superpower. But they just happen to find all these communities that happen to be next to military bases. I think if Manteno submits a long-form CFIUS review, I have a very hard time seeing how Goshen possibly survives that. And I think the fact that Goshen left the only community that was willing to put them to do that tells us everything we need to know. Yes, go ahead. So the question was, at the end of the village board meeting yesterday, one of the trustees said, we can't answer all your questions because we don't have answers to all the questions. I appreciate the candor of that trustee member. The question was, is that a breach of fiduciary duty to approve these things? If you were a member of a corporate board and you voted to approve a massive contract and you had no idea what the contract was about, if you voted to approve a change in headquarters and you didn't know where the new headquarters was going to be or what the laws were going to be, your shareholders would have a very good breach of fiduciary duty claim against you. I have a hard time seeing that it is any different for a village in Illinois just because they're a government official. If you're going to be exercising the rights of the people to vote for the village, you should have all the information necessary to make that decision. And so we did, like I said, we sent a letter to the mayor and CCing the trustees saying we believe there have been breaches of your fiduciary duty. If they vote for this planning commission, if they vote to uphold and we don't have all the information, I think they can expect to see another letter from us pretty quickly.
Did the people request the long form CFIUS?
So the question was, can the people request a long form CFIUS? Unfortunately, the answer is no. To request it, you have to be the municipality or entity who's actually approving the company coming in. So the state of Illinois can request one, the village of Manteno can request one, but as an individual citizen, unfortunately, we cannot. But that is where, well, and so that's why making requests to your trustees and to your village board to do so, that's why it's so important. I raised it for the first time yesterday, but I hope respectfully people will ask them to continue to do so. As I said repeatedly, Manteno has nothing to lose. If the long form comes back and Goshen is cleared, that's going to go a long way to assuaging all of our concerns, because that's a very, very detailed investigation CFIUS does in long form. If it comes back failed, then we know we don't want Goshen here. So I don't think Manteno has a single thing to lose from requesting that. I wish individual citizens could, but I hope that you will request your trustees to do so.
Can the whole board have to vote on that, or can we have one member ask for it?
So the village has to request it, and for the village to take any action, there needs to be, my understanding, a majority vote of the board. I believe there, did you have a follow-up? So I had a map that I was looking at that had it look like the Goshen property was not actually part of Manteno, but the map wasn't incredibly clear, unfortunately. Yeah, so sorry, the question was, is the Goshen property even within the municipal bounds of Manteno? My answer was, I saw a map of the Manteno property, but I didn't, it looked to me like Goshen may not be actually inside municipal grounds, but I couldn't quite tell. And for those who couldn't hear, some people in the crowd are saying that it is within the bounds. Go ahead. So the question is, could they change the code effectively to remove the fact that you cannot have toxic materials here? The village has every right to change its code, but the code as it exists right now is what the rezoning has to occur under. So if they try to pass that rezoning under this current code, my reading of that code is that it's illegal. If they change it later and then do the rezoning, then that legal avenue may not be as available. But then there's a very good question to ask all of your trustees. Why are you removing the prohibition on highly toxic materials from our community? What possible basis could you have to protect our community if you're doing that? Were there any questions? We had 3 other excellent speakers here. Did anyone have any questions for them as well?
I have a question. Are they both going to speak, Mr. Glenn and Ms. Ives?
Or are they going to?
Are they going to be speaking at the meeting?
So they were asking if you're going to speak at the planning commission.
I am not. I'm with a 501c3, so we don't have to raise a lobby on these things, but I wish you luck and hope you all to lobby.
Can I get whoever wants what? The gentleman in the black coat? Mark.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Mark Glennon. I'm with Wire Points.
Thank you, Mark.
I'm Robbie Doobie. I'm the attorney for the Concerned Citizens of Manteno.
I'm Jeannie Ives. I run Breakthrough Ideas. I'm a former state rep.
I'm Philip Nagel, and I'm with you guys, the people. The state's back to state, the state's back to Manteno, and let's keep Goshen out of Illinois.
Do you have any insight as to why the media is so quiet on all this? We're not hearing anything from any major. We got News Nation gave some, and you. But right, News Nation's here, and I appreciate that. But like any ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, anybody.
Yeah, I cannot. I mean, they're fine with this, but I mean, Mark Lennon's been great. He's been writing stories. We've been writing stories. They're in the tank for this guy. They're in the tank for Pritzker. That's the deal. I will say this: Crane Chicago. I get a lot of information from them. They like to write about energy, but they don't go after it. They're not writing the editorials and everything. Mark?
There are 330 million reasons why the president covered. That's how much Pritzker spent in his last two campaigns. Most of that goes into advertising dollars. They're not going to rock the boat.
Wow. Jeannie, are you going to speak?
I wanted to tell you though that I mean honestly, this is your fight. This is exactly what we do. Citizenship is not a spectator sport. We don't sit back and take this from them. We have to win elections. You cannot vote for a Democrat. They're the ones who put Pritzker in place to do this. They're the ones who elected Speaker Welch and Don Harmon. These guys don't care one bit about Manteno at all. They don't care. They really don't. And you know what? And that goes for like your local Kankakee state rep, state senator, whoever they are. They don't care. I mean, Patrick Joyce just as well be part of like the Chicago Democrat Party. Honestly, he doesn't care about you. He does what he's told, and this is how these deals happen. I mean, this guy. Think about it. A 400 deal closing fund. He gave $125 million, almost a third of it, to a Chinese-controlled company, not an American company. By comparison, Rivian, who builds EV vehicles, they got a $50 million deal. So they gave the Chinese 10 times the amount that they gave them. And then, by the way, I'm just going to connect the dots on one more dirty deal that I think that was done. So the UAW strike is over, and I think that you're going to be seeing a bunch of union folks over there. They're going to be all like up in arms. I'll tell you what, this is not good for them. These jobs, I think, are really not going to come here. The EV battery market is failing right now, and actually China controls it. They not only control the rare earth metals, they control 14 times more capacity on EV batteries than the U.S. has right now. They took our technology early on. They've upgraded it, and now they just want to deindustrialize the United States and control all of these markets. That's really their end goal. That's what they want to do. It's a soft, cold war. That's what they're doing. Make no mistake about it. But the latest thing that Pritzker did to you, since I got the microphone, thank you guys. The latest thing that he did to you, though, is truthfully, and Cranes wrote this out really well. So Sean Fain, the president of the UAW, is quoted in Cranes saying, "We made Belvedere our rallying cry." So they closed Belvedere Jeep manufacturing plant about 8 months ago. And they made it their rallying cry when it came to contract negotiations because all they want is jobs and pay raises. That's what they want. That's what the union wants. So they wanted Belvedere opened again. They made it part of their contract negotiations, all right? And then later on in the article, it says, we don't know yet how much the state's going to give Stellantis to open up that as the Belvedere as an EV plant and an EV battery plant, but we know they're going to put $5 billion in, and they gave Goshen $500 million. This is all in the Cranes article, so we can only imagine that it's a big amount of money. Well, if you connect the dots there, what did he actually do? Pritzker, along with the UAW president, along with Stellantis, leveraged your tax money to actually end the UAW strike. That's what they did. And we don't know yet how much it's going to cost us. But you just paid for 25% pay raises for the next 4 years and an EV manufacturing facility that we should not be doing. Not to mention he spent $12 million back in May, another $27 million just in November to put in EV charging facilities all across the state. I don't remember paying for Shell stations and BP Amoco or any of those stations. But now we're paying for all of this entire nonsense. And they're going to force you to try and buy an EV, and nobody's buying them. Nobody's buying, we don't want them. At least we don't want them in their current configuration. So, I mean, this is just the start, by the way. This is just the start of the fight to get these guys back to believing in capitalism and believing that the best product should win out instead of having these heavy, heavy subsidies. Oh, by the way, ComEd stood on the stage with Goshen, Pritzker, Harmon, Welch, and the rest of them.
Yep.
NICOR stood on the stage with a whole group of them, and they promised Goshen that we're going to bring you clean energy to this plant, and we're going to upgrade all of your gas facilities, all of your transmission facilities, to give you the best opportunity to have good, clean energy. That is a lie. That's 100% lie. I tell you right now, there is absolutely none of your electricity is being produced by solar right now. It's not. It's dark out. There's no solar. It's not happening. This is all such a big lie, and honestly, thank you so much for being here. This is a fight. It's only the beginning, so get ready. Thanks. Have a great Thanksgiving.